Welcome to the CAD Office Training Guide series for FDOTConnect. I am Randy Roberts, CAD Application Support Specialist 4. I will be going through the FDOTConnect Traffic Plans course guide. In this series of videos, I will take you step by step through each exercise from the course guide. Today, we will start with Chapter 3 of the course guide, Pavement Marking Tools. Topics covered in this chapter will be the Pavement Marking Tool overview, placing single patterns, placing multiple patterns, placing patterns freeform, and editing already placed patterns. The objective of this chapter is to create proposed pavement marking features using the Pavement Marking Tool located on the FDOT ribbon in ORD. Pavement Marking Tool is an application within the FDOT workspace that is used to draw pavement marking in accordance with the MUTCD and FDOT CAD standards. Please refer to the Design Standards indexes for details on signing and pavement marking. So the Pavement Marking Tool is located on the FDOT ribbon on the Traffic Plans panel, and the dialog box looks as shown on the screen. Many of the traffic plan items are simple 2D line styles drawn and have pay item information already placed for future quantity reports. To draw pavement markings with the tool, you'd select the pavement marking icon on the traffic plans group on the FDOT ribbon. There are 3 modes in the pavement marking tool to aid in the design and layout of patterns: the striping mode, separation mode, and chevron diverge, chevron merge mode. The Pavement Marking Tool places all solid or skip pavement markings. The Striping Tool can use an alignment, line, or even a previously placed pattern to offset from. And typically you would use either a line or striping you've already placed as an offset. The designer can either draw a single pattern or draw up to 6 patterns at once. The designer can enter in the distance between stripe patterns along with the offset distance from the source element. The distance is measured from the center as a default, however, the justification can be changed. There is a history list that the designer can quickly change patterns. The history list contains the last 10 patterns the designer has selected. To access this history list, click on the pull-down arrow in the pay item name, and that history list would be right here. As you can see, I already have one. As you use this tool, the history list will populate. So to go over the options that are in the striping mode, starting at the top, for spacing distance, the designer enters the distance between each pattern. Under Select, stripe 1 through 6, clicking on any of the stripe buttons opens the pay item database where the designer can browse or search to select the appropriate pattern, complete with symbology and pay item data. Pay item list. This selection from the pay item database populates with the description in the list. The list will retain the most used 10 patterns to form the history of patterns. Make all distances equal. When toggled on, it forces the patterns to be the same length. For striping method, there are 3 choices. Element points places patterns via offsetting of a source line. Draw perpendicular places patterns perpendicular to the source line. And freeform allows designer to draw patterns with snaps without constraints. For end offset, if you're drawing a perpendicular pattern, this will control how long that pattern is drawn. Under element data, element, this list contains the name of the reference pattern. Start point, this lists the coordinates or station value of the reference pattern at the starting point. Endpoint lists the coordinates or station value of the reference pattern at the ending point. Associate alignment with pavement marking. When toggled, it will place all patterns associated with the selected alignment. To select an alignment, click on the green selector button to pick your alignment, and the alignment name will populate in the select text box. This is required so that your quantity reports will be accurate. And you should always have this toggled on, and you will always need to select the alignment before you start placement. Switching over to the separation mode, this mode allows you to draw stripes at an angle between elements, such as a center turn lane where it approaches a left turn condition. For the item, select this button to open the Pay Item database to select a striping pattern. The list to the right contains a pull-down that lists the history of previously placed patterns. So this history pull-down is the same as the other mode. Distance between stripes allows the designer to input the distance between the stripes that are going to be placed. The angle allows the designer to enter a known angle or to select the pick box to pick 2 points in the drawing to designate the angle used. The angle type allows the designer to select either a fixed or variable angle for the stripes. The begin and end point will list the coordinates of the beginning and end striping point. And associate alignment with pavement marking is the same as the other mode. It must be toggled on, and you must select a alignment before you start placement so your quantities will report correctly. And to execute the placement, select Draw Separation. The final mode, the chevron diverge merge mode, is used for traffic channelization at a gore when traffic flows in the same direction as seen in the figure below, which is in the training manual. Please refer to design standards for specific design criteria. So under the diverge pattern, the item, select this button to open the Pay Item database to select a striping pattern. The list also contains a history pull down that will populate with as you use the tool. Distance between chevrons allows the designer to input the distance between the stripes. Chevron type allows the designer to select the chevron type, which determines the direction of the pattern. The choices are diverge or merge. For control points, the diverge and merge point list the coordinates of the narrow end of the gore. Break line gore point lists the coordinates of the wide end of the gore. In associate alignment with pavement marking, again, leave this toggled on. You will need to select that alignment before you start your placement. And then draw chevrons executes the placement. So let's start with exercise 3.1, draw striping patterns. In this exercise, the designer will place a 6-inch solid white pattern representing the edge of pavement along the curb and gutter of the roadway in the intersection curb return. So continue working in or open the DSGN SP01 file located in the signing and marking folder, and we will zoom in near the intersection on the south side of the road. Zoom into the curb return, and you will open the pavement marking tool. Make sure you're in the striping mode, and make sure only stripe 1 is active. By default, it is active. You do not have to toggle it on or off, but please make sure stripe 2 through 6 is toggled off for this placement. So we will select a 6-inch solid white. So selecting the stripe 1 button opens up the Pay Item database. You can either browse to the pattern. It's easier if you collapse all and then go navigate that way. Or you can type in the Pay Item number. So in this instance, we want 0710 11101, and you have to click the search button, and there it is. And then we select OK. It populates in the list. So for spacing distance, we want 0.33, which is equal to 4 inch, and you have to enter in decimals. So you have to, if for 6 inch would be 0.5, you need to convert your inches to decimal and enter it in that way. So we want, for striping method, make that element points, and we want to select the alignment. So I'm going to alignment button, then left click on the alignment, then left click again. As you can see, the name is here. Now, if this alignment was referenced into your file, you would have the full path of that alignment, and that's completely normal. When you run a quantity report, that entire path will not show up in the report. It would just be the name. Okay, so with everything correct, select Draw Pattern. And I can zoom back in. I'm going to select this curve return here. Left click to select it, and then left click the side that I want the pattern to be placed. Now I'm still in the Draw Pattern mode, so I'm going to select this tangent. Left click that way. Then I'm going to go across the street here and do the same thing on this curve. And tangent. Okay, so that takes care of that exercise. So let's take a look at the striping we just placed, the properties of it. Let me select one of the patterns. And this PayMTIT is the properties that are specifically to this striping. You can see the pay item number, the description, the unit of measure, the pay item number, and the alignment name. You can ignore the stripe length and skip length as 0 because the length is up here and it's correct, 173.31. So moving to exercise 3.2, placing a 24-inch stop bar. In this exercise, the designer will place a 24-inch stop bar at the intersection using a construction line as a reference. Make sure construction lines are turned on and zoom to the intersection around station 701 as shown on the screen. And to turn on construction lines, use the view attributes and select constructions. And we want to use this red line here representing the stop bar. You can also press F7 to turn construction lines on and off. Okay, so we want to use stripe 1, so let's pick a pattern that goes in there, and the pay item number is 0710 11125. I know you want to hit enter to launch the search, but you do have to select the search button itself. And here's our pattern here. I'm going to select OK. You see it changed up here. For spacing distance, I want to select 0 because we're going to be on top of that construction line. You notice that I do not have to associate the alignment because it's already here. In each session, you select the alignment once, associate it, and you're good until you close the session out. But please pay attention. If there's no alignment here, you need to associate your alignment. And you can also associate alignment. Let's say that you have drawn it without an association by mistake, and instead of having to redraw your design, you can come in, select the alignment here, associate alignment, and select your patterns that have no association on it, and it will assign that alignment to them. But you want to, it's preferred to do it this way to begin with. Okay, so we have the stop bar selected, and we are ready to just draw pattern. I'm going to select that construction line, left click on it, and then left click again. Stop bars placed. So go ahead and cut construction lines back off for now. And we are going to move to exercise 3.3, which is placing two different patterns. In this exercise, the designer will place two patterns, one representing the bike lane and the other a 1030 skip pattern for a lane line. So zoom to the area shown on the screen, and we want to select for stripe 1 the 6-inch solid white. So we've already placed that in the file, so we do not need to open the pay item database. Pull down the history list, select the 6-inch white. Now we want to toggle on stripe 2. You see how it became active and not grayed out any longer. We want to open the pay item database, and we want to search for pay item number 0709-11131, and it's the 1030 skip, and select OK. And we want stripe 1 spacing distance should be set to 4, which is 4 feet, and stripe 2 to 12 feet. And what this is going to do is draw the first stripe 4 feet from the source element that I'm going to offset it from, and then stripe 2 is going to be drawn 12 feet from stripe 1. So, and that's how it would work here. If you selected all 6 and you were going to draw 6, it would be 12 feet from the previously placed pattern. Okay, so that looks good up here. So we want to change the justification to inside for these two patterns. Now we can select draw pattern. I'm going to zoom in, select that 6-inch white stripe we placed earlier, left click into the travel way, and there we have two patterns drawn at 1030 skip and bike lane. So when you can draw up to 6 patterns at once, it will save you some time. Okay, so let's go to exercise 3.4, which is placing and editing a crosswalk. In this exercise, the designer will place two crosswalk patterns at the intersection using construction lines as a reference. Zoom to the area near the intersection, as I'm showing right here, and continuing in the DSGN SP01, in case you do not have it open. And on the FDOT ribbon, let's open up pavement marking, and let's also cut on construction lines. Okay, so make sure that you have stripe 2 toggled on as active, and using the history pull down list, we want to select 0710-11125, which is the 24-inch crosswalk line for stripe 1, and we also want the same pattern for stripe 2. And since we have used this in other exercises, this displays in the history list. For justification, we want to use center, and for stripe 1 spacing distance, we want to use 5 for 5 feet, and for stripe 2, we want to enter in -5. And since I do not have an alignment showing up in my select box, I'm going to select my alignment, and the name pops up in here, so that's good. And from here, we want to select draw pattern and come over here and select the red dashed construction line. So I'm going to left click on it, and then I'm going to left click just to the side of it. And there we have the beginnings of our crosswalk. So we do have some cleanup to do here. We need to trim the pattern here. So let's go to the drawing ribbon and trim multiple. And I'm going to select the island as the cutting element. And then I'm going to left click on each one of the striping. You can see it clean that up. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So I'm going to select the 6-inch white stripe that we placed earlier as the cutting element, and then just left click on the crosswalk. So as you can see, we have a crosswalk, and next we need to add our perpendicular patterns in the crosswalk itself. So now we're going to go to exercise 3.5, which is adding the patterns inside the crosswalk. In this exercise, the designer will use the separation mode and the pavement marking tool to place crosswalk bars inside the previously placed crosswalk. So continuing in the DSGN SP01 file, open pavement marking tool if not already open, and switch to the separation mode. Select the item button and browse to the 12-inch solid white crosswalk pay item number 0710111123. And it's over here. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 0710111123 and hit search. And there's what I'm looking for right there. I'm going to select OK. Notice the alignment is still selected, even though I changed modes. You can change modes all you want in the same session. As long as you have originally selected that alignment, it will always show. Okay, so we need to change a couple of things up here. So we want to have distance between stripes, set that to 10. We want the angle set at 330. And another neat feature here is you can use 2-point to define the angle if you don't know it. And we want the angle type set to fixed. Okay, so before we start that, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the construction lines. Get that out of the way. So now we're ready to draw the separation. So I'm going to left click, select that. And on the bottom you see it's asking to select first element. So I'm going to select one side and then the other side. Doesn't really matter which side you select first. And now it's saying select first point. So I'm going to just left click inside the two patterns I selected, and I'm just going to drag my mouse all the way up. Now you notice the preview. And what's neat about that preview is, in case you don't have the correct spacing or you want to make a change, you can make the change over here and then it will dynamically update before you commit it to the file. Alright, so I'm going to get that last one fitted in there. Notice it will only draw in what it will take. So I left click to commit that to the file. Now it's in there. And if I wanted to change something now, I would have to delete it and replace it. So now let's go to exercise 3.6, which is extending the bike lane striping and 1030 skip to the intersection. In this exercise, the designer will extend the bike lane striping placed earlier along with the 1030 skip pattern that was placed earlier. So continue working in the DSGN SP01 file. Zoom to the intersection as shown on the screen. And next we want to cut back on the construction lines. And what we're going to do is extend these patterns to this red dashed construction line. And if your file does not have one, it's easy to just copy a adjacent construction line and move it here. It's at the end point of that green dashed construction line. Okay, so going up to the top here, trim to intersection. I'm going to left click on that. And it's asking identify the first element to modify. So I'm going to select that 1030 skip. Then I'm going to select that red construction line. Notice it extended that and deleted part of that construction line. Okay, so now I'm going to trim to element, which will lengthen or shorten element to element. So I'm going to select the bike lane, and then I'm going to select the crosswalk itself. First one is done. I'm going to zoom in here because I want to extend this tangent portion of that bike lane and then extend it to the crosswalk. So there we have those two items extended. So the final exercise, which is 3.7, will be adding a bike lane and 1030 skip pattern along the north side of the road. So I'm going to zoom in to station 705 roughly, and I want to use the pavement marking tool, but I want to switch back to the striping mode. And for stripe 1, I want to select the 6-inch solid white we have used before, and I also want to use the 1030 skip. So for stripe 1 spacing distance, I want to use 4, and for stripe 2, I want to use 12, and I want to change the justification to inside. So with the alignment still listed there, go ahead and select Draw Pattern. I'm going to zoom in here and select that other 6-inch line and left click into the travel way. And now we have our bike lane and our 2 travel lanes. Thank you for joining me today for Chapter 3 of the FDOTConnect for Open Roads Designer Traffic Plans Course Guide.